Let me guess, you promised yourself you wake up early today, hit the gym, stay off your phone, stay focused, eat clean, be productive, and you meant it. But here you are, feeling tired, distracted, and feeling like you have failed again. But what if I told you that isn't your fault? That the version of the discipline you were taught is broken, and that your struggle has more to do with biology, trauma, and burnout than it does with willpower. This video isn't about shaming you into hustling harder. It's not about pretending to be a machine. This is about reclaiming your power even when you feel weak, especially when you feel weak. So here's the truth. Most people don't struggle with self-control because they are lazy. They struggle because they are exhausted, overstimulated, and drowning in a world designed to hijack their attention. You find yourself fighting your brain, your environment, and even your past. And no one ever taught you how to win that fight. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to teach you how the real discipline works. Not perfection, not punishment, but a sustainable kind of self-control that still works even on your worst days. The tired days, overwhelmed days, the I don't even want to get out of bed days. You learn how your brain actually responds to temptation and stress, what most productivity advice gets completely wrong, and how to build the kind of discipline that feels like self-respect and not self-hate. So if you've been stuck in the circles of guilt, shame, and starting all over, then this video is for you. You're not broken. You've just never been given the full picture. So grab a journal, take a breath, relax, and let's begin the journey of rebuilding your self-control from the inside out. So let me ask you, have you ever looked at someone who wakes up at 5 a.m., works out, eats clean, hits all their goals, and you thought to yourself, I wish I had that kind of discipline? Yeah, same. But here is the problem. What we think discipline is often completely wrong. We've been sold this idea that disciplining is about brute force, working harder, hustling harder, your willpower, waking up earlier, saying no with your chest with all confidence. So look at it. If that were true, we'll all be disciplined, we'll all be thriving, and we are not. Like 92% of people fail to keep their resolutions. So willpower is like a battery, and every decision you make drains it a little. And the more choices you have to make in a day, the more that battery dies out. So in a nutshell, the more decisions we make, the worse they become over time. And this is a phenomenon called decision fatigue. And this is why usually you start your morning with full motivation, but by 9 p.m., you're stress eating chips and scrolling on TikTok. An expert on building good habits, James Clear, said it the best. You do not rise to the level of your goals. So in other words, it's not about being stronger than your cravings. It's about designing a life where discipline becomes the default. And let me show you what that actually looks like. Let's assume your goal is late night snacking. And you tell yourself, okay, tonight I won't do it. That's right there, it's a goal. And that is willpower. But by 11:45, you're tired, your willpower is drained, and your environment is perfectly designed for failure because there are snacks everywhere with zero friction, no restriction, easy access to your snacks. So now, here is what a system looks like. And this system starts from you stop buying your snacks from the stores and instead placing a bowl of fruit on the kitchen counter. And you prepare a protein-rich dinner so you're full at night. And you set your alarm to go to bed before 10:30 p.m. So you're in bed before the cravings even hit. And that right there is not motivation. That is infrastructure. So this means that you didn't get stronger overnight. You just made it easier for yourself to make the right choice and harder to make the wrong one. And statistics shows that environment influences 80% of behavioral outcomes. And that's exactly what systems do. They remove friction from good behavior and add friction to the bad ones. And the best part is once the system is in place, your willpower can finally rest. So let's talk about real life for a second. You wake up, you check your phone, you get 20 dopamine hits before you even brush your teeth, such as texts, emails, WhatsApp messages, likes, news, and chaos. And now your brain is overstimulated. and you haven't even started your day, and your self-control system is already fried. And an expert on dopamine explains how overstimulation desensitizes our reward circuit, and in turn making it harder to resist short-term gratification throughout the day. And you may be asking, what's the proper process when you wake up? So when you wake up, instead of grabbing your phone, try this. Before you reach for a screen, reach for stillness. Give your brain space to warm up. No text, no apps, no noises. So just silence, breathing, and your own thoughts for the first 15 minutes. Then drink a glass of water, step outside, stretch your body. This is because sunlight and movement signal your body to wake up naturally and not artificially. So this is just a scenario. Everybody's morning routine doesn't have to be the same. So then, instead of reacting to the world, first of all, ask yourself, what do I want to create today? Who do I want to be today? And that right there is discipline. Choosing to respond instead of react. So you don't need a perfect morning routine. You just need a protective buffer between your brain and the noise of the world. And according to my research, neuroscientists found that the first 30 to 60 minutes after you wake up are when your brain is the most neuroplastic, meaning that this is the time they are most capable of rewiring and forming new habits. So according to the experts, early morning is a prime time for rewiring the brain, and avoiding overstimulation during this window helps you to strengthen focus and intention. It is certain that you can't control the chaos of the day, but you can control the first 15 minutes. That alone can reset your self-control for the rest of the day. So discipline isn't about being tougher, it's about making fewer hard choices. It's not about try harder, it set it up so I don't have to try as hard. Because it is something that if you're constantly fighting your surroundings, you are not going to win. So if no one ever taught you how to build systems, if you grew up in chaos or you've always felt like you're behind, I want you to hear this clearly. It's not your fault that you struggle with discipline, and you're not alone in this. But it is your responsibility to unlearn what is not working and rebuild something that does. So if motivation isn't the answer and systems are the key, how do you actually build self-control, especially when you're emotionally drained? So we are going to look inside the brain to understand what really drives impulsive behavior and how to rewire the part that keeps falling off. So have you ever found yourself doing something you will regret? Eating junk food at odd hours, skipping your workout, texting your ex, spending money you don't have, and right after thinking, why do I always do this? Why do I always sabotage myself? So here's what most people don't know. There are two major parts of the brain constantly in conflict. They are the logical brain and the emotional brain. The prefrontal cortex is the part that plans, reflects, set goals, and this is the part that says, let's wake up early, let's eat healthy, and let's become the best version of ourselves. But the emotional part, the limbic system, is the part that it wants pleasure and it wants it now. And this is the part that says, let's just skip it today. Let's scroll a bit more. Let's quit. Let's relax a little. And here is the catch. When you're tired, stressed, anxious, and emotionally triggered, the prefrontal cortex goes offline and the emotional part of the brain takes the driving seat. And at this point, it doesn't care about your goals. Scientific studies show that emotional distress reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex and increases activation in the fear and the reward center of your brain. And that's why at this point, we reach for comfort and not progress when we are overwhelmed. So no, you're not lazy, you're not broken, and you're not failing because you're weak. You're failing because you're fighting a brain that was designed for survival and not modern day success. So if you want to build self-control, you need to do two things. First, reduce the emotional chaos. And the second, reprogram the default your brain runs on. So you need to regulate before you discipline. You can't expect yourself to be disciplined when your nervous system is dysregulated. So the first step isn't discipline, it's calm. For example, the Navy SEALs use a technique called box breathing. And this is the technique. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, then exhale for 4 and hold for 4. So this technique calms the nervous system and reactivates the prefrontal cortex. So you can start rebuilding by starting small, not with the hardest thing, but the simplest possible win. Make your bed, drink water, read one page, and this certainly is not laziness, it's leverage. And statistics have shown that consistent small wins boost dopamine and motivation over time. So every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you send your brain a new message saying, I follow through and I can be trusted. And this brings me to say that the best time to stop an impulse is before it begins. And this means recognizing the cue, the moment right before you break. And this is the time you breathe, pause, and redirect. So discipline isn't some dramatic battles that take hours. Most of the time, it's won in a 5-second window. So it's that tiny pause, that choice not to go on autopilot that saves your day. So let's say you're tired after a long day and you open TikTok for just 5 minutes. That's the cue. And that's the trap door. So let's say this time you recognize it, you pause, you breathe, and you make a different choice. That one moment rewrites your night. And that's the real game of self-control. It's not about being perfect. So it's about getting good at catching yourself just once and when it matters the most. A 2020 study from the Journal of Behavioral Therapy found that people who practice urge softening, noticing impulses without acting, reduce their compulsive habits by 36%. So let's check on what's really happening when you lose control. At this point, your brain isn't betraying you, it's just trying to suit you. But now that you understand the inner battle, you can start changing the battlefield. So at this point, let's shift from the brain to the environment and talk about how to build a life that makes self-control easier and not harder. Because the strongest people aren't the ones who resist the most temptation. They are the ones who aren't surrounded by it in the first place. So let's be honest, most people don't fail because they are lazy. They fail because they are trying to be disciplined inside an environment so designed for distraction. It's like trying to be healthy in a junk food factory. You might be strong and fight it for a while, but eventually the environment wins. So discipline becomes easier when you stop relying on resistance and start using friction by making bad habits harder and making good habits frictionless. And this is what behavioral experts call choice architecture. You're not forcing willpower. You're changing what choices feels easy and what choices feel annoying. I met Sarah who works from home, but she's constantly distracted because there was no boundaries, no structures, and no routine. She kept blaming herself, but the truth is her environment was setting her up to lose. So she redesigned her environment. Now Sarah starts her day by dressing as she's going to an office. So she works in one spot only, her phone out of sight. She blocked social media and made focus her default. Dr. Wendy, a leading researcher on habit formation, found that up to 43% of our daily actions are automatic, shaped by context and not conscious decisions. So if your surroundings are messy, noisy, and chaotic, your behavior will match that environment. But if they are clean, intentional, and focused, you start living like the person you truly want to become. These changes might seem small, but small things aren't small when they happen every single day because they compound and they build your default setting. So discipline isn't about being hard on yourself. It's about making things easier for your future self. And this is one environment, one system, and one design tweak at a time. So as discipline isn't just about doing more or pushing harder, it's about becoming someone who naturally follows through. Even when no one's watching, it becomes your second nature. So most people try to change by focusing on outcomes. For example, when someone is trying to focus on losing 10 pounds or writing a book, that often leads to burnout because those goals feel too ambiguous and too far away. To stop chasing outcomes and start embodying identities. When you shift your focus to who you want to be, the habits and discipline follows almost automatically. So think about it this way. So each more habit you build is a vote for the kind of person you believe yourself to be. And when enough votes stack up, that identity becomes solid and unshakable, and your brain rewires to support the actions that fit this new you. So if your goal is to write a book, don't just say, I want to finish this book. Say, I am a writer, and you write something every day, no matter how small. And if your goal is fitness, become someone who moves their body daily, even if it's just 5 minute stretch. The results will follow because now you're not forcing action, you're living it. So discipline isn't a mountain you climb. It's a path you walk every day. And that path begins with a simple question. Who do I want to become? So this is not about reading a book once. It's about becoming a reader. Like Ellen, who used to say, I don't have time, but now carries books everywhere and reads a chapter daily. Or Jake, who stopped chasing running a marathon and started simply being the person who moves daily, jogging and walking and stretching, whatever it takes to become a runner. And then there is Mia, who dreamed of learning piano. Instead of forcing practice, she embraced becoming a musician by playing a little each day, even when she is tired or distracted. So if you want to write a book, focus on becoming the person who writes daily. Just like Louis, who journals 5 minutes every morning and finds his ideas flow naturally. And if you want to learn a new language, don't just cram. Become the type of person who studies daily. Like Emma, who uses apps and conversations to build her skills bit by bit. And then retiring early is not about hitting a magic number, but becoming someone who saves consistently, like Carlos, who automates savings every paycheck without thinking twice. Embody the identity of a grateful person. And if you want to be grateful, just say one thing that you appreciate daily and embody the identity of a grateful person, as Maya does every night before bed. Now, here is what everyone struggles with: sleeping up. No matter how strong your willpower, how well designed your environment is, or how clear your identity is, you will mess up. There's always a chance you'll mess up, and that is okay. And it is normal. In fact, sleeping up is a crucial part of this growth. As an expert on vulnerability and resilience rightly said that imperfection is not inadequacy. It's a reminder that we are all in this together. So what actually matters isn't avoiding mistakes. It is how you respond to them. So first, notice when you sleep, but don't beat yourself up. Self-criticism makes your brain go into defense mode, and this makes it harder to get back on track. So instead of this, practice self-compassion, and you can say to yourself, I'm human, this happens, and what can I learn? And the next step is for you to try to understand why you sleep. Was it stress, fatigue, boredom, or something else? Journaling this helps. So write down the trigger and how you felt. That way you gather data to prevent the same sleep next time. Then recommit to your system, but be flexible. So if your current plan isn't working, redesign it. Maybe your morning routine is too ambitious. So scale it down to something that is manageable. So do remember James Clear's advice. Focus on systems, not just goals. And in addition, accountability can be a game changer. Tell a friend, join a community, or hire a coach. And if you want to learn more on personal coaching, you can send me a direct message. So this is all about whoever will cheer you on, reminding you of your why, and hold you gently accountable. This is because you're not meant to do this alone. So finally, celebrate every small win. Every day you recommit, every step forward is a progress. Treat discipline like a muscle, right? It gets stronger with consistent use and kindness. I met Emma, who struggled with daily meditation. Some days she skipped, felt guilty, and almost quit. But instead of giving up, she journaled while she slept, and she simplified her meditation just to 2 minutes and told me about her struggle. And slowly those small steps rebuilt her habits and her identity as someone who takes care of her mind. And next part, the author of the Willpower Instinct says, willpower isn't just about trying harder. It's about creating conditions that make the right choices easier. And a psychologist and author of it reminds us that enthusiasm is common, endurance is rare, discipline is endurance, and that endurance is built by embracing failure as a step, not a stop. And so here is the truth. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up again and again, even when it is hard, even when you sleep. It's about creating systems that support you, shaping an identity that carries you through the tough moments. And most importantly, it is about being kind to yourself because you deserve patience and grace. So if you take one thing away today, let it be this. Your journey isn't a straight line. It's messy, it's human and beautiful, and every step forward is a victory. So keep going because you're worth it. Thanks so much for watching. If you find this video helpful, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps support the channel and let me know that you want more content like this. So thank you for watching. Remember, discipline is a journey and every step counts. I'm rooting for you. See you in the next video.